Hello everybody, this is Zach with Top Deck Nation coming at you today with another deck analysis video. If you didn't tune into our last video, check it out. We did Speed Zygarde EX and Regirock. So basically, Zygarde hits for 1 fighting energy. He's got the whole fighting engine going for him. He's got Karina, Fighting Stadium, the Regipower ability, which adds 10. So, check that out. But today we are going to be looking at a deck that really hasn't seen a lot of exposure. Even though Fates Collide made it a lot better in my opinion. So that deck is going to be Houndoom. So if you recall, I did make a deck profile video a few months ago when the city championships were going on with Breakthrough had just come out. And basically, I think I played it with Slurpuff to draw more cards, but Houndoom basically mills cards. It gets rid of the top card of your opponent's deck, hopefully decking them out and running them out of resources. And it does that with its Melting Horn attack, so it discards the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. So, this hasn't really seen a whole lot of play because things like Night March, Vestal and Vileplume, there's a lot of decks that just kind of outspeed it. Greninja hits it for weakness, of course, so it has a lot of things going against it, but I think it gains a lot of great cards from Fates Collide. That's what I wanted to share with you guys today. So, Houndoom, it's got 170 HP. We will add Fighting Fury Belt to it to make it 210. But that's pretty much the core of the deck. To get set up with this deck, I put out Houndoom, I attach a Fire Energy, and I use Melting Horn. And basically, we're just going to deny prizes, we're going to knock off energy, and hopefully end up winning the game by milling our opponent out effectively. So that is, that's our Pokemon line. We play 4 Houndoom, that's it. So because of that, we can squeeze so many cards in here. So let's go ahead and look at our supporter line here. So the main supporter I am using in here is N. And what is great about N is that it's disruptive. So that means the longer you play out the game, the better it's going to be against your opponent because they're going to be drawing less and less cards while you're going to be shuffling and drawing 6 every time. So that's pretty awesome. And it's, in my opinion, it's better than Professor Sycamore in this deck because I don't have to discard my resources. So I don't have to discard my hammers, my extra stadiums, things like that. So N is pretty much what this deck has been needing. I said that when city championships were going on. I was like, I love this deck, I love the concept, but something is missing. It's not drawing cards the way it should. That's why I was playing like Tierno and Slurpuff if you check out the deck from a few months ago, but N is a way better option. So definitely play N in this deck. We play 1 AZ. It's a good switch card. It's also good to heal our Pokemon, and that way we can just continue to Melting Horn. We play 1 Cassius, very similar to AZ, but it goes back in the deck. So if we're low on energy or low on tools, we can definitely save our resources that way. We also play 1 Hex Maniac. This is good against things like Trevenant Break, good against Greninja, a lot of things. Shaman, there's a lot of abilities. Every deck has something that plays abilities, whether it be Shaman or Zoroark or, you name it, Octillery. So Hex Maniac is definitely a great one of, and because we play Battle Compressor, we can easily get that out of the deck and into the discard. We play 1 Lysandre, so this is mainly for late game. This is just in case you manage to get rid of all their switch cards. Like if you see like, a couple switch or a couple floatstone in the discard, they're low on VS Seekers, then, you might want to Lysandre up like their Shaman or Bronzong or whatever they're playing that has kind of like a high retreat cost. So that way it really pressures your opponent and you might just win the game that way. We play 1 Pokemon Center Lady. This is great against something like Superior. So even though we're fire type, as you'll see in the game we play, I don't really want to attack for weakness. Even if I could, I would much rather just kind of mill my opponent down and run them out of resources and energy. And Pokemon Center Lady helps me by offsetting the math. And against Servine and Superior, it's going to be healing that paralysis. So that way I'll be able to continuously use Melting Horn, basically. We played 3 Team Flare Grunt. This is great because it just knocks off an energy. It doesn't cost me anything. You could definitely play 4 in here, but I think 3 is probably a great number since we play hammers and stuff already. And Team Rocket's Handiwork. This is arguably the MVP of the deck here, guys. Being able to mill 2 is great, but being able to potentially mill 6 a turn is just ridiculous, as you'll see in the games I played. But oh my gosh, flip 2 coins for each heads, discard 2 cards from the top of your opponent's deck. So, that's a 75% chance you're going to be milling 2 additional cards every turn. So, in most decks it might not work. It's kind of a luxury card. It's kind of a gimmick card. But in this deck, all I'm doing is milling. So this really kind of complements the strategy, and I think it's really great, especially if you can flip 2 heads. We're playing 1 Xerosic. This is good if you've already used your Megaphone, you want to knock off something like a tool, like a Muscle Band or Fighting Fury Belt. Also good to knock off Special Energy. So there's a lot of Special Energy in the format right now. So I do recommend playing this, as well as Enhanced Hammer, of course. And as far as stadiums go, I'm playing 3 Silent Lab because I want to shut off my opponent's abilities the entire game. I'm looking at Shaman. I'm looking at basically anything with a basic ability. I will shut that off, hopefully, and I'm going to probably win the stadium war against most decks, since most only play 2. The exception might be like Vespiquen or Trevenant or something, but for the most part, Silent Lab is very beneficial. And again, I don't play Shaman. I don't play anything like that in here. This deck is really good. It's really efficient, and it's really budget friendly, to be honest. I don't really see anything in here that really breaks the bank. I think the most expensive card is maybe Battle Compressor, which is like $4. So if you're on a budget, I definitely recommend this deck. And then as far as our items go, we are going to play 2 Battle Compressor. Like I said, we're going to get rid of our 1-of supporters since we play a ton of them. Crushing Hammer, this is great just to knock off energy in general. Enhanced Hammer, like I said, a lot of decks play Special Energy. You might even want to consider bumping this up to 2. I don't really know what I would take out personally, but I think Enhanced Hammer is a great card to have in here. Max Potion is amazing because I can just heal off up to 200 damage if I have a Fighting Fury Belt and just attach it energy and just continue to mill. So I really like Max Potion. I think it was in Breakpoint when it came out, but it's a great addition to this deck. Repeat Ball, personally, I've never seen a deck that actually played Repeat Ball. I think I saw it in like a couple of like Landorus bat decks at regionals a year or 2 ago, but Repeat Ball is so good in this deck, guys. You could replace these with Pokemon Fan Club, so that way if you're under item lock, you can still search out your Houndooms. But Repeat Ball is so great because it's a free search card. If you remember playing like the Team Plasma decks a year or 2 ago, you'll know that that Team Plasma Ball, that free search card, it's everything, right? It's so good. So that is why we're going to be playing Repeat Ball over something like Ultra Ball. I don't have to discard anything. So with that said, we have Startling Megaphone. Startling Megaphone is great. It knocks off tools, and a lot of people play tools. They play Floatstone, Fighting Fury Belt, Muscle Band, so that's why we play that. We also play a Super Rod. This is just because we only play 4 Pokemon. So if we prize a Houndoom, we'll have a chance to get it back. And of course, if we run out of energy, that's just going to be a way to recover our energy. So we play 4 Super Scoop Up. That is good just to kind of deny prizes and such. 4 Trainers Mail. This is also a really good card in here. I cannot recommend it enough. If you look here, we play 48 trainer cards. So that's, I think that's 80% of our deck is trainers. So that's every 4 out of 5 cards is going to be a trainer card. So that said, I think Trainers Mail, name is definitely fitting, right? Trainers Mail is very ideal here. It's going to get us a lot of good stuff. Verse Seeker, play 4 of those. That's standard to just get your supporters back and reuse them. So, and then lastly, we have Fighting Fury Belt. That's going to put Houndoom at 210 HP, which is basically in range of a Mega Pokemon, which is just, it's crazy. And it really benefits me because I don't really care about the 10 more damage. It's offsetting the math. Combine that with something like Pokemon Center Lady or Max Potion, and suddenly Houndoom is just like, it's a giant milling tank. So compared to something like the Noble Victories set Durant, or the Durant that's in the new set, I think it's in Breakpoint or Breakthrough or something, the one that mills cards. Houndoom is way more efficient. It's bulky. It can use Fighting Fury Belt. I mean, it's so good. So again, I don't really know why the deck hasn't seen a lot of exposure. I think it gains a lot of great cards. But with that said, let's go ahead and jump into a couple games that I recently played on Pokemon Trading Card Game Online, and let's just see how it goes. Alright guys, looks like we are playing against someone named Kane Parker. We're just flipping a coin. It's a pretty cool coin there. Looks like a grass coin. we may be playing a grass deck, I'm not sure. But I do get the coin flip, and that's awesome. It's always great to go first, just so I can get set up and everything. In this deck, it's actually really beneficial to go first, just because maybe I can pull off a Team Rocket's Trickery and get an early start, which looks like I might, as long as I get a heads. I see a Superior in his hand, so more than likely I'm going to be playing against a Superior deck. This is a card that just came out in the new Fates Collide set. It's really cool. It's got some synergy with Forest of Giant Plants because it is a grass type. So essentially, I can evolve from Snivy to Servine to Superior all in one turn and already attack for, a single energy card, which is really good. So I'm just looking at my hand here. I've got a lot of options. I'm going to go ahead and Battle Compressor so that way I can get rid of those one-of supporters that I mentioned before. So, something like Hex Maniac will be really useful. It looks like I do have AZ in there. That'll be good if I get paralyzed or something. And then maybe, maybe Lysandre. Just in case he runs out of energy and I can Lysandre up like a Shaman or something else that he's playing. I'm not really sure what else he would play in here. And I think I will probably just go for the Team Rocket's Trickery, honestly. It's hope for four cards, and oh my gosh, we get 2 heads. So that just milled 4 cards, and I see a Shaman, a Super Rod, and a Superior, and a Verse Seeker. So that is an amazing 4 cards at the very start of the game. I chose not to attach the Fire Energy just because, once he does get Superior and starts hitting me for like 80 or 100 damage, I'll be able to Max Potion next turn. Looking back, maybe it would have been better to just go ahead and attach the energy and potentially maybe donk him or something if that's all he got. But I do see he's putting the Shaman back in the deck. So I've got a good feeling he will get set up and get a couple more Pokemon out. So I would rather just, be on the safe side. It looks like I'm already at a decent little advantage here. So he's going to go ahead and Battle Compressor. More than likely, he's trying to get like a Superior, maybe a Servine, a couple supporters, not really sure. But the great thing about this deck is that you can actually use Revitalizer, a card that came out in Generations. You can use Revitalizer and Battle Compressor to quickly get those grass Pokemon out. So pretty cool combo. Also good with things like Vespiquen and Vileplume. But he's going to go ahead and use Professor Sycamore, and he gets his fresh 7 cards. We're going to see what he gets. He's going to need a Pokemon. Otherwise, he's going to be in some trouble. Obviously, I can't knock him out next turn because I didn't attach an energy, but he's going to need something here. All right, so I do see an Ultra Ball. That might be for another Snivy. That may be for a Shaman. Looks like it is going to be for a Shaman. So he'll probably drop that in just a minute. Maybe he'll thin his hand down a little more. Shaman setting it for 2 is not very good. But we see him draw 3 cards, and we're going to see what he gets off those 3 cards. So he's going to need something really good. He's going to need like Servine and Superior to actually pull off an attack. He uses Super Scoop Up. He gets tells, so that tells me his hand probably isn't that great. I'm trying to see if he will put anything else down. But it looks like, honestly, he may not have anything, and he goes for the, I think it's Blot. It does, it looks like 30 damage or so. So at this point, I can attach. My hand looks pretty good. It doesn't look horrible. So I think I'm going to go for the Team Flare Grunt and knock off his energy right away and just go ahead and Melting Horn. So I use Melting Horn, and yeah, there we go. Looks like I see a Pokemon on this card. Looks like maybe another Superior. So, I'm in pretty good shape right now. I'm already set up. Like I said, guys, this deck is, kind of interesting because the only setup I need is a Houndoom with a Fire Energy on it. Once I get that Fire Energy on it, I'm good to go. I'm already milling cards. The Fighting Fury Belt's nice. Having a couple more Houndoom out are nice, but otherwise, this is all I need to get set up. And at this point, I'm just wondering, is he going to be able to get something out? We see a Revitalizer. That's going to be good. I don't see the Servine in his hand, though. I see the Snivy and the Superior he got off the Revitalizer, but, he's going to need a Servine to actually compete here. So I see a Verse Seeker for an N, so that's probably a good choice, although it will give me an extra card. So let's see what we get off our N. And I see an Energy, I see a Rocket's Handiwork, a Team Flare Gun, a Silent Lab. So, this isn't the worst hand. I do wish we had another supporter just in case, Houndoom gets damaged. But otherwise, this isn't a horrible choice. And at this point, Superior is about to do a ton of damage. I think he's going to do like 100 for one energy, but he opts to use Coil, I guess because the math doesn't really matter too much. I think in his shoes, I would have used the second attack just because if I do manage to heal with a Pokemon Center Lady, it would just kind of offset the math a little more. And basically, it's going to take him, 3 turns to knock me out instead of 2 if he just kind of does it that way. But yeah, Coil, I believe it adds 60 more damage to your next attack, so it can help. It could definitely help there. But I'm going to Verse Seeker for the AZ, and that's going to let me scoop up Houndoom and just kind of take that turn back. And at this point, I'm just going to Melting Horn, and that's going to do 2 more cards, and he's going to be, he's slowly being whittled down here. So Superior is essentially 2-shotting me, maybe even 3-shotting me because, 210 HP is ridiculous, but I don't think I've actually got a Fighting Fury belt. So it looks like he is going to be 2-shotting me. He's going to go for the attack. I'm going to use Crushing Hammer, and I get a heads, so there it goes. I'm going to use the Rocket's Trickery, and here we go, and oh my gosh, 2 more heads, so that means 4 more cards will be discarded from his deck. So I'll use Melting Horn again. So, he may knock out this Houndoom, he might, but, he is running out of cards, and that is awesome for us. So I'm looking at Superior just to see what it's doing. He's going to opt to use Coil, and I think that will knock me out, unfortunately. So I'm in a bit of trouble. He just took a couple prizes. I don't have another Houndoom, so I'm going to go ahead and play in. It's going to end him down to 4 cards, and it's going to put me at 6 once again. So that's why I said in is so good in this deck. I don't have to get rid of resources, and it's perfect. So I get a really good hand off this. I get a Repeat Ball to get my Houndoom. I get a Crushing Hammer, which I get a Tails on, but I'm going to go ahead and Repeat Ball for another Houndoom. I'm just kind of looking through the deck to see, what else is left here. There's nothing else I really need to battle Compressor, so go ahead and put down Houndoom. Go ahead and Trainers Mail just to see what's there. I think I'll go ahead and grab in because I don't have a supporter for next turn. So at this point, Melting Horn, 2 more cards. So I think he's kind of starting to struggle here, and that's good for us. I think he's starting to realize, I can't exactly 1-shot or 2-shot this thing, and if he gets a Fighting Fury belt, I'm going to be in some trouble. So, and keep in mind, we do have Max Potion in our hand, so if he does any kind of damage at all, we're just going to take it back. We also have the Silent Lab down. That's going to shut off any kind of Shaman from coming down as well. Although, if I had to guess, I would say he is playing 4 Forest of Giant Plants. It seems pretty obvious, pretty standard in this type of deck. So, all right. So he just Trainers Mailed, and we're just trying to see what he's going to do next. I think all he can really do is attack. I mean, I don't really see anything else. I mean, he seems pretty set up. We're going to see a Revitalizer. That way he can drop a Servine in just a second, and he might just paralyze us. So that might be something to watch out for. But he uses the ability, and he gets a Tails. So Houndoom will be attacking next turn. And, we see the Coil for a whopping 120. And what should we do at this point? I think we're going to have to Max Potion. And after we Max Potion, I think we can just maybe... I don't know if I want to play in or what, but yeah, I think I'm going to play in just because it's actually going to give him more cards, and that's kind of what I want, to be honest. So we're going to see him dip below like 10 cards at this point. Crushing Hammer heads, that's really good. And let's go ahead and Melting Horn. I don't really have a need to use these other cards. I don't really need another Houndoom mount at this point. So, he is down to, I believe, 6 cards. It's a little hard to see from my end, but I think about 6 cards or so. It's going to be really hard for him to come back. He's taken a couple prizes, which is great, but unless he can consistently 2-shot me, I don't really see a chance for him to actually come back here because If you look at my hand, it's really stacked right now. We've got Super Scoop Up, we've got Max Potion, Crushing Hammer, Trainers Mail will more than likely search out like a supporter or something. And what? He's opting to use Professor Sycamore, so I don't know what that's about. Maybe he's just trying to go for like a Hail Mary or something. I don't really know, but he's out of cards, so unless he has like a Super Rod or a Sacred Ash, he pretty much loses next turn. So, and yeah, there we go. Looks like our opponent concedes. I guess he realized that he just couldn't come back from that kind of game. So as you can see, you know, Houndoom, it's pretty awesome once it gets going. It's pretty easy to set up. But I want to go ahead and jump into another game I played, so let's go ahead and get into it. All right, guys, we're just flipping our coin here in our second game. Looks like we are again going to go first. In this deck, it's awesome to go first if you can manage to pull off the Team Rocket's Handiwork. But we both mulligan. I'm just kind of looking at his hand. I see a couple Zoroark, a Target Whistle, an N, a Lysandre. So the Target Whistle is kind of interesting. You know, at first I thought this would maybe be just a Darkness type deck, so like Yveltal or you know, Darkrai or something. But the Target Whistle makes me believe it'll probably be Baby Yveltal Zoroark, which is a deck that kind of popped up at state championships. Actually, I think Kevin Baxter did pretty well with it. But basically, you know, there's less focus on attacking with these big, bulky EX Pokemon that give up 2 prizes, and a little more on the little Pokemon like Zoroark and Baby Yveltal that give up just a single prize. So at this point, that's probably what I'm going to face, and if it is, then that means with Zoroark, I mean, by itself, Zoroark is incredibly strong. If I have a full bench, his Mind Jack attack is doing 160, so with a Muscle Band, that's going to be enough to one-shot Houndoom. So we have to kind of go around that, play around it. Hopefully, you know, hopefully we can just set up really quickly and not have to bench really anything, maybe one Houndoom at most, so that way it kind of limits Zoroark's attack. But oh my gosh, I've mulliganed so many times. I want to say that's 3 mulligans. I think we mulliganed more, but my opponent also mulliganed a couple times. So I think he'll get 3 cards, but I am going first. I've got the energy, I've got Fighting Fury Belt, and I've got an N, so that's going to kind of balance out those horrible starts. That's another reason N is good in this deck. Chances are you're going to be mulliganing because you only play 4 basic Pokemon. So getting N in your opening hand, whether it be just drawing it or Trainers Mailing for it or Verse Seekering for it, whatever, getting N is very crucial here. That's why it is such a great card in this deck. So I'm going to go ahead and attach the Fighting Fury Belt, and I'm going to have to end because I don't have any other Pokemon. I don't have hammers or anything, so I play the N. This looks pretty good to me. I can VS Seeker for N next turn. I've got the energy. I've got a couple supporters. I've got, I believe, a Trainer's Mail. So I'm going to go ahead and Repeat Ball. I'm just kind of seeing what's in here. It looks like nothing's really prized, so I think that's good. I see Megaphone, I see Team Rocket's Trickery, I see a bunch of good stuff. So I think I will go ahead and grab the Houndoom. So I think all 4 of them are in the deck too, so that's really good. You know, there's nothing worse than whiffing on the Houndoom and only having like, you know, 2 Houndoom in the deck or something. It's really horrible. You know, if I ever prized 3 Houndoom, I don't know what I would do. But I will go ahead and put down Silent Lab, and it's going to really mess my opponent up if they cannot get a Shaman EX. So, or another Stadium, I should say, so that way they can play the Shaman EX. So we're going to see a Trainer's Mail, and, you know, for that matter, I'm trying to think of what kind of Stadium they would play in here. I guess the Chaos, not Chaos Tower, but the other one, the Reverse Valley. Yeah, the one that adds the 10 more damage. So that might make a difference here. You know, you definitely want to play some kind of Stadium these days because, you know, every deck plays one. Every deck plays some kind of Stadium. So if you're not playing at least a counter Stadium, you're already at a big, big disadvantage. So that's why you normally see like Trevenant decks play 4 Dimension Valley. Superior decks play 4 Forest of Giant Plants. Greninja decks typically play like Silent Lab or Rough Seas. But we are going to see a Battle Compressor, so we're going to see something from our opponent here. I'm not sure what he's trying to get. More than likely just a few supporters. Maybe an energy or 2, I don't know. So that way Baby Yveltal can use that Oblivion Wing to power up Zoroark. But I did see an energy, I did see an N. So it's possible that he might play a VS Seeker to play an N or something like that. He attaches to the Oblivion Wing Yveltal. which is pretty interesting. I mean, I guess he can't really attack his first turn anyway, but we're going to see an N. And, that just benefits us. Anytime our opponent ends and we only have a few cards, that's perfectly fine with me. I think this build is pretty consistent enough that, when you shuffle and draw 6 fresh cards, you're probably going to get something you want. Maybe not everything, but as you can see here, we have a Max Potion, we have an Energy, we have a Hex Maniac to shut off things like Xerosic, that stand-in ability, and Shaman setup. So at this point, we're in really good shape. I'm going to go ahead and Repeat Ball just to kind of finish our setup here. So, we have all the Houndoom we need at this point. 3 is more than enough. Trainers Mail, I'm just looking for a supporter of some sort. The question is, what am I going to get? I think I'm actually going to opt for the Battle Compressor. I'm just going to continue to put more supporters in the discard thin out my deck. Keep in mind that thinning your deck also kind of increases your chances of getting the other cards you want. So, if I'm thinning out these kind of cards like Flare Grunt and Rocket's Trickery, well, if I play an N, chances are I'm more likely to get things like the Max Potion or the Fury Belt, things I might need more immediately since I can't play, 3-4 supporters in a turn. So at this point, I'm going to Crushing Hammer. I get Tails, so that's kind of disappointing. I'm actually going to opt to Hex Maniac my opponent. Like I said, we don't play abilities, but our opponent does here. So I'm kind of trying to trap his Zoroa in the active. And oh my gosh, I used Melting Horn, and I believe it discarded 2 double colorless energy. So that is half of his special energy right there, more than likely. So, and I see a couple more dark in the discard as well, but that was a really good Melting Horn. That's going to hopefully prevent Zoroark from attacking us too often. So at this point, he is going to have to retreat to the Yveltal. We see a Giovanni's Scheme. You don't really see that too often, but it looks like he may not have much. And we see a Float Zone, and he will now just retreat out into the baby Yveltal. And we see a Trainer's Mail. So, at this point, I'm pretty relaxed about this, pretty pleased with how it's going so far. Yveltal, he's doing a little bit of damage, but honestly, I don't see him, two-shotting me with this because, I still have 150 HP even after his attack. So I can still, take another hit or two. So let's go ahead and just continue with this. Do I want a Max Potion or do I just want to go ahead and Melting Horn and save the Max Potion? That is the thing. What I could do is attach to one Houndoom just in case, and then just go ahead and Max Potion and attach the energy again. So, I'm debating about it. I don't really know what option I want to do, but I think I'll go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to go ahead and Melting Horn because, there's really no way he could knock me out unless he plays like Max Elixirs to power up the baby Yveltal, a Muscle Band, Startling Megaphone. I really don't see him knocking out this particular Houndoom. So I think I'm in decent shape here. Yeah, we're just going to see what happens. He needs to get some Zoroarks out to actually do some serious damage. He might even play Zoroark Break, and if he does, he could actually copy Melting Horn every turn and mill me 2 cards. But as you can see, I have barely used any cards compared to him, so I think I'm in good shape. He does use Shaman's setup. It's a shame I couldn't have Silent Lab out this past turn, but that's okay. We do see Zoroark come out, so Zoroark's going to be able to basically give everyone free retreat for the most part, and that Mind Jack attack. I believe it's doing 80 right now because I've got 2 on the bench, and I've got he does have the Reverse Valley out, so he'll be doing 80, which is pretty respectable for sure, but it's not exactly going to be knocking me out. So he's going to go ahead and search out for another Zoroark. And we might just see a Mind Jack this turn. I'm not sure. We are going to see a stand-in. So he does have the DCE. So he's going to be doing some damage now. And we see the Mind Jack for 80. So that puts me at 140, I believe. And at this point, I'm in good shape. The question becomes now, should I Max Potion the Houndoom or should I Pokemon Center Lady to save the energy? It's going to be interesting. Should I heal off everything and play it safe and blow an energy, or should I heal a little bit and then next turn just kind of surprise him? I'm looking, does the math work out in my favor? Should I, what should I do exactly? It's a tough call. It really is. I don't play a whole lot of energy, but I'm going to opt to Max Potion, because if he manages to use like Startling Megaphone, there might be a way for him to kind of knock me out. So I'm not going to take any chances here. I'm going to go ahead and Melting Horn, and that's going to mill 2 more cards. I did see it mill away a Shaman, so that's always good. And he's only got 3 cards left in his hand. So, I mean, if this deck played Delinquent, his hand would essentially be wiped out right now. But, I don't really prefer Delinquent. I mean, it's nice to knock off Stadiums and discard 3 cards, but, your opponent has to discard the cards, so they get to choose. I would rather just have more control with Rocket's Trickery. But we see another Mind Jack for 80. He does get his Zoroark break on the bench, so that is something to note. I do have a Fighting Fury Belt, and I'm actually going to heal Houndoom, so he's going to drop to just 20 damage, so he's going to survive 2 more hits. So we're going to continue to mill him another 2 cards. I think that I saw a Zoroa or a Zoroark or something, but he's really starting to struggle here. He hasn't taken a single prize. I have a Verse Seeker in my hand, so I can play in. I can play whatever supporter that I have in there. We see another 80, and I draw a card, and it's in. Okay, so what I could do is actually play another Pokemon Center Lady and just continually heal. I have enough Verse Seekers. I believe I should be okay. I don't want to waste them or anything, but every turn that I can just deny him a prize is really good. So I think I'll go ahead and use Pokemon Center Lady. So at this point, it's going to drop me down to 40 damage, I believe. And yeah, I'll go ahead and Melting Horn. So, every turn that he cannot knock me out, he's essentially going through his deck 3 times faster, because he's drawing his card for the turn. He's being milled twice a turn. So, he's going through his deck at least 3 times as quickly as he wants to. And sometimes you might find yourself with this deck actually burning through more cards than your opponent has. But, there's a pretty big difference. The difference being that, I'm actually controlling which cards I'm using, and our opponent doesn't have any control whatsoever, because, if it was up to him, I'm sure he would not want to discard 2 DCE a turn. That said, this Houndoom might just get knocked out. So what I will want to do at this point is probably retreat it to a different Houndoom. And I draw my 6. I do have Super Scoop Up, but I think I'd rather save it. I'm not really sure if I should use that or not. I could just retreat to Houndoom and just mill 2 cards. This one also has the Fighting Fury Belt, so it would just kind of force my opponent to use a Lysandre. So I will go ahead and retreat. I think that's the safest option. I don't necessarily want to have to waste a Super Scoop Up. I want to force my opponent to use like a Verse Seeker or a Lysandre or something. So I'm going to go ahead and Trainers Mail. I get a Crushing Hammer, it looks like, because I don't really need much else. So I go ahead and use Crushing Hammer. I do flip heads, so I'll go ahead and knock off the DCE off this Zoroark. He'll probably end up retreating to the break, but that's okay. And I'm going to go ahead and Melting Horn. So at this point, he is in some trouble. I think he's down to 6 cards left in his deck, if I can see it correctly. So, what is he really going to do? He hasn't taken a single prize. He can go ahead and Lysandre up Houndoom to knock it out, but then he's just kind of wasted a supporter, possibly a VS Seeker, and, that Houndoom is not really the threat anymore. The threat is this Houndoom with a 210 HP and milling to a turn. So, that's something to keep in mind. Zoroark is, the break is going to be promoted to the active, and I'm curious what he's going to do. Is he going to use Melting Horn on me, or is he going to use Mind Jack for 80? So, either way would be okay, but I think he just has to go for the 80. I think he has to just keep putting pressure on me, because otherwise I'm just going to win in a couple turns. So, we're just waiting to see what happens here exactly. He's going to VS Seeker, so that's good. I want him to kind of blow through those VS Seekers, because eventually he's going to run out of them. So he'll Lysandre up the Houndoom, but honestly, Houndoom has 120 damage on it. He's not going to knock out this Houndoom either. There's no way he's going to knock it out. So it becomes really interesting at this point. He's going to get a Hex Maniac, but that's going to kind of thin his deck down even more. So, the question is, what are we supposed to do here? Houndoom is at 200 damage, and he's not knocked out. So there's 2 choices I have here. Well, there goes the Super Scoop Up, that's Tails, but I can either attach and use Melting Horn, so that way I can use Team Rocket's Trickery and potentially win. if I flip double heads, I guess. Or I can via Seeker for the AZ, which would be much safer, and basically scoop up that Houndoom. And so that would deny him a prize and probably set me up to win next turn. So that's probably the safest play. I would have loved to end this video by milling 4 cards and then 2 more cards, but I'm going to play it a little bit safe. At this point, I'm just kind of seeing what my opponent can even do to come back. But I think we've won this, guys. I don't really think there's a way to come back here. Super Rod or Sacred Ash, but we see him concede, and he didn't even take a single prize against this Houndoom deck. So, like I said, I believe this deck is pretty darn competitive. You just have to know how to play against certain matchups, and you have to know what kind of metagame your area has. Night March will be a toss-up because, Night March, it's great because it burns through the deck, so it kind of helps you. But it's really bad in the sense that it can do so much damage, and that's the same way with Vespiquen and Vileplume. But that is the Quad Houndoom deck, guys. If you're interested in any card choices or anything like that, just let me know. But check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/TopDeckNation. Check out our Instagram, which is @TopDeckNation. We're going to have a lot of great stuff in store for the summer. But yeah, this has been Zach with Top Deck Nation, and I will catch you guys in the next one.